Dusk.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on Elemental? Give us your review for that.
Well, Elemental is a movie that takes place in Element City. It is a place that has four different elements currently living together. Uh, each one has a separate district. The wind elements, the water elements, the earth elements, and the most recent additions being the fire elements. Uh, Ember Lumen, voiced by Leia Lewis, is a tough, quick-witted fire element who works at her family shop, who has a bit of a temper. During her attempt to try and take over her family business, she loses her temper during a particularly tough day and ends up meeting Wade Ripple, voiced by Memento Effie, who is a water element who unfortunately also happens to be a Element City inspector who sees that her father's place is built by hand, which technically means it was built illegally. So he's going to have to condemn it. Through trial and tribulations, she chases him all the way back to City Hall, where she asks him to give the place another chance to find a way to avoid foreclosure. And in doing so, he's like helps her out, and together they try and work with different elements in order to save her family shop. Along the way, as they work together, they start discovering things about themselves. And slowly, over the course of the movie, Ember starts to think, is taking over my family shop really what I want in the end? And that's about it. If I'm going to be honest, that's about it to the plot. Really, it's a
Did you mention?
basic... Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you mention that they trying to stop a dam or something? Right? Did you mention that?
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that. Did I? Because the movie kind of forgets to mention that at a certain point. This movie, first and foremost, is a romantic comedy with some really, really, really heavy-handed commentary on racial and mixed relations between the races. Unfortunately, it never quite lands, and it never quite gels between it in all those aspects. It isn't deft on it. It's very obvious fire people are not liked because they cause fire and problems. And you go, well, yeah, that's their element. They burn earth people and they hurt them. Yeah. And then water people, water can kill fires, so of course they stay away from them, and there's a prejudice between the two.
Yeah. Fire makes up 13% of the population, but commit 100% of the crime.
Exactly. It is.
What the fuck is with that?
Absolutely. They're in the most, and a lot of
go back to the fireplace.
And fire is like, and the fire people commit most fire on fire crimes. Yeah. No, it's very depth. It doesn't have a lot of depth. It doesn't make a lot of attempts on it. And honestly, for a movie that inspires a lot of elements, they don't really use a lot of the elements. It's really more focused on the story of Ember Lumen and Wade Ripple. And I will say this. The movie was actually quite expensive to make. It actually took about 7 to 9 years to actually make, which is sad because when you actually see the movie, it doesn't have the visual like oomph that other Pixar movies kind of have to make you really just like your jaw drop and wonder. But when I'm looking at all the smaller details while they were working on it, you can see, the reflection of the water is happening in real time. The fire is like on the people is really is a sparkling and cindering at that point in time. And they were even wondering if they could even make this movie at all through CGI. But through hard effort and work and a lot more computers than they usually do, they were able to make this movie work. And I feel sad for this movie because it feels like 3 different movies. The first movie wants to be a genuine story about a daughter trying to meet expectations of her family and trying to take over her family shop and trying to preserve it. And the is again what it means to be a culture away from their original culture to a new place and trying to start and a new land, and all the complications that come from that, and the desire to pass that on to the new generation, and the conflict that can come when the new generation wants it, but they don't know exactly where they want to be. And then you have the romantic comedy aspect of the movie, and the back and forth between Wade and Ember, and them trying to work together to try and solve a problem. Which, I'm gonna be honest, the villain of this movie is the city planning. That is the villain of this movie. They are just grossly incompetent, and the movie is not too subtly kind of pointing that out. This movie could have been solved if they just. It's true. You didn't think it would be an issue with zoning permits and issues. There is a point in time where water is coming into the fire zone, and it's because of offlow from a water carrier that carries like a liner, like a ship that carries the water, and the water from the river offlows onto it. And you would go, yeah, wouldn't you not have any pipes in the fire city? Like none whatsoever. You would have no sewer system at all running through that part of the city. I know they didn't plan for the fire people, but you would think you would just meld that all off with like sheets of iron and metal. Yeah, it's really kind of the city doesn't quite work on it in itself. But I will say this: I at the end of the day, I actually didn't hate the movie. I have a lot of issues with the movie, but I will say this: Leigh Lewis, she does a good job as Ember Lumen. I actually liked her performance as it. She comes off as a quick-witted person willing to help her family, and she seems really concerned about her family and wanting to do a good job. And the conflict of her with her later on a personal note is cliched, but she does carry it well. Wade, I'm a bit torn on Wade. I do like Mamadou's performance. I think he does a good job kind of carrying this more relaxed kind of guy. But it does get annoying with every drop of the hat. He starts crying and weeping. And there's no arc for his character like there is for Ember. He just kind of starts the movie as this way and then kind of ends the movie the same way. And it would have been nice if they together they kind of help each other, because Wade does help Ember, but Ember never quite helps his issues. And I felt that could have been a fix. But ultimately, I think what I liked most about the movie was the generational aspect of it. Her relationship with her parents is very nice, and Wade's relationship with his parents, although very limited, is also nice. His mother is voiced by Catherine O'Hara, and man, it's just good kind of hearing Catherine O'Hara again. It feels like it's been a minute since I heard of her. She's famous for being one of the parents in Beetlejuice. And it's like, you know her probably most as the redheaded mom from Home Alone.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Catherine O'Hara. It's been a while since we heard from her. She does a good job for what little she's given. She's a widow in the film. Wade actually has a good conversation about why he likes the fact that she's so close to family, because he lost his dad and he compares them. We were like oil and water. We never got along. And then he died, and I never got to say that I was sorry. And so he kind of like happily envies that she has such a close niche with their family. And but while I'm explaining this movie, it comes to the main problem is all these different elements, no pun intended, never quite mix. Ironically, they just don't gel together. They feel discombobulated. They feel shared and just kind of mushed together into a film. Well, might be slightly visually pleasing. I'm going to be honest. Most kids are going to get lost in it. It's not energetic enough to kind of keep you going. Rated M for maturity. It does feel like it is retreading Zootopia. Zootopia handled the race issues much more subtly, and it fit it much better if that's what they were trying to get across. This movie feels like a retread, but what's weird is while I was watching it, I did feel that there was a spark of a good idea here. There was a spark of an idea where you could have had a romance-centered movie that did had a city of elements, but that's the whole theming of it, or one or the other. There's ways that they could have worked, but they never quite found a way to do it, which is a shame. And a lot of it, I think, probably this movie's not going to get the attention for most kids, unfortunately. The younger kids aren't going to pay attention to this. They're going to be either confused. They're going to be like, this is a little too slow, or I'm not really getting it. This is going to be for more like 10 and up. Maybe for even then that they'll be able to pay attention to it. Even then, I think there are better examples. There's so many aspects of this that they introduce that they don't really properly use later. And the ending of the movie, while sweet, it is unfortunately a bit not undercut, but just a bit underwhelming for what ultimately this could have been. Because of that, this movie isn't bad. If you go and watch it, it's not too bad, but this is by far not one of Pixar's best. I think if they had taken a little bit more time in the writing room, taken a little bit more time to really focus on a singular idea, really focused on that, they could have gotten a solid movie out of any of those different parts of it. But not quite doing that ultimately leaves it a bit muddled. With that said, I think I'll give this. The intent was pure, but the execution just didn't work out. I'm gonna give this a low stream because it wasn't a bad movie at all. It just is not gonna keep the attention of those in the theaters. But if you're at home or watching it with kids, and you have kids and you want to watch this with them, I think you'll do all right. It's not the worst. It's not the worst thing. But there are certain messages in this film that if you feel uncomfortable with, or you don't like dealing with, or you don't want to even just deal with it, I understand if this is a skip it. I totally get it. That's my review of Elements.
Elements. All right. Thus says the elements should be separate but equal. Elemental.
I just wanted a better movie. Honestly, the romance is the best part.
Cool. I'm looking at Leah Lewis, who plays Ember. Gorgeous woman, and she is shredded. I'm seeing an Instagram pic of her, and she's in the gym. Good for her. Yeah.
No,
I guess
the voice actors all did their job, and they did a good job for it. The material just needed to be better, but there are a couple of moments in the movie where it is visually pleasing, and it is. And there are good tender moments in it that did go, oh, that's pretty nice. That's pretty good. They nailed that. But just as a whole, it just doesn't form together. It's too solidus. It never quite forms.
Okay. So that was Dusk with Elemental.